Hey everyone, and welcome to Ginger Prime. My name's Brian, and if you're a returning subscriber, what's up Soul Nation? Thanks for coming back for a New World video in which we finally can actually talk about New World, what we've experienced, and as we look forward to the future of this game and its release in 2021, there's a lot to talk about. Now, typically when it comes down to video games and how I like to present that information, we could use footage, but since that footage is still under NDA, we'll be able to actually capture some fresh footage going forward to be able to put out guides and answer any questions you might have about this game, talk about it in depth, detail. Cannot wait to share more. In fact, if you're looking for more New World content after this, you can always check out the recent playlists. In the description, we'll have those links. Our podcast for New World Radio, or most likely we'll be live if this is the 25th, and we'll be streaming it so you can come jump in, ask any questions about the game. I'm happy to show off anything and everything that we've experienced. I can't wait for you to check this out because there's a lot that I want to say, and I finally get to say it, and it's a really interesting game. Is it going to be a good game? Is it going to be the best game ever? Is it going to replace, or is it going to really compete against Ashes of Creation? All of this is still unknown and up in the air, but what I can say is there's a lot that this game does right. I really enjoyed the combat. I really enjoy the economy. I really enjoy the user interface. I really enjoy. I sat down and had played the game with my wife, and she looked at me and said, "You're going to buy me a copy of this game, right?" And that's high praise. There's a lot that you can do. And I think one of the things that really resonates with me, first and foremost, is the fact that it does support controller. And anytime I talk about controller support MMOs, there's definitely a mindset and a player that says, no, they don't want that in their MMOs. Controllers make MMOs worse. I don't agree. We're going to have to just agree to disagree on that aspect. However, it's not yet complete with the controller. We'll be putting together feedback, getting it over to the devs so that they can hopefully make the best controller setup in case that's how you want to experience the game. Sure, and I've even had this argument in other games that it's like, I don't care if I'm at a disadvantage. More often than not, I would like just to have a level of comfort when sitting down and playing a game. So anyway, I put together already kind of a feedback video taking in Final Fantasy 14 footage showing, hey, you're doing this on the controller in this game. If it'd be great if Final Fantasy 14 in a way established kind of like a base level setup that people can use to take advantage of. Anyway, more feedback coming, I'm sure, from me to them as an avid controller player. So I'm happy that it has it. I was able to do a lot, but I wasn't able to do everything. So there was one thing when it comes down to mapping. I know that was a question, like, can you remap? It's difficult. Like, it wasn't really intuitive. Obviously, when I was playing with the controller, the UI is still set up for keyboard and mouse, so you kind of have to guess as to what buttons do what. I'll try to put together a controller guide for you, actually with in-game footage today or tomorrow, so that way you guys can check it out for yourself and go over all the settings and character stuff. It's going to be a fun time. I'm very excited to be able to make this kind of content for you guys. But it's not just the controller as to why I'm excited for New World. Not at all. In fact, I think if I was going to say something, it's community. I think MMOs really over the last decade, and I love them. These are the kind of the games that I like to play. I love multiplayer RPGs. I felt like two things have been true, and it could be completely wrong. I'm not trying to insult anybody here, but I felt two things have been true. It's instant simulators and lack of player choice. Because essentially, when you look at the math, it's like, well, everybody kind of eventually agrees that this is the way you build your character. And the meta essentially rules all. And I hate that. I hate that aspect. I think it's sometimes, obviously, having a good understanding of meta can help. But I felt like the game design has definitely got simplified, streamlined, and thus you have less ways to kind of express yourself. And thus all of the expression in games has gone completely into fashion. And the fashion endgame, the glamour endgame, all of that's been what I think MMOs have evolved into over the last decade. I feel like New World's changing that. I think Ashes of Creation is changing that. I think that what we see coming in the next decade, in a couple of years into this next decade, hopefully will change that. Nothing wrong with fashion. There's nothing wrong with that aspect, but that has become the only way you can actually be a character, in a world, because there is no other choices. The only choice you're given is to dress up. Then that's essentially what becomes, I think, the end game. Mastering that, trying to come up with unique things. For me, that's never been what it is. I think the other side of that coin is community. I think that is driven by player economy. I think that when you make everything drop from whatever piece of content, that becomes the pinnacle content. I just think that there's always going to be a give and take and a balance, and I have no problem if there's high-end content that drops really cool stuff. I think that there should be other ways, and I think the player economy, having that relationship, that need, even the lowest level player, even the most casual player, is actually helping out that end game, is actually helping out that raider, is actually helping out their faction just by playing the game and doing what they want to do. And I felt like that connection was very strong in Final Fantasy XI, and I immediately felt that connection here. That's not to say that that's going to be what carries ultimately forward, and it should always be noted that plenty of things are capable of changing and probably will, as there are more planned alphas to come in the future. But I immediately felt a sense of community. I felt people were chatting. I felt like, within the faction there was chat. There was all kinds of things going on. There were small pockets of like just kind of people who were just doing their own thing, larger pockets of forming the communities, and even bigger. And I think that's why I'm happy that I didn't see at least any instance content. I know that they've got plans for like some stuff. But the fact is that everything goes into the instance. It kind of happens out of sight, out of mind, and it doesn't necessarily invite casual players to try and attempt hardcore things. And I think that's the relationship between the casual player and the hardcore, is that the hardcore player inspires the casual player to do more interesting things. Like, hey, there's this really cool stuff over here. Come take a look. And if you can't see that, if it's hidden behind a veil of secrecy that you can only find it online and in videos, you end up probably not being as connected to the world itself. That's just my impression, and that's just my interpretation of how the games have evolved. So I love the open world. I love seeing people in the open world. I love the chat. I love the fact that it takes a long time to get around the open world. And at some point, I do think that it'd be great to have some kind of mount system. But ultimately, when you get to the cities, you will get the ability to fast travel, and you will have your camp. We'll have to see how that plays itself out in the long run, because at some point, if you're 2 hours away in game physically, and it wasn't 2 hours, it felt like it was at least like 15 to 20 minutes of running to be able to get and team up. That could end up being your night, especially if you're a busy person, especially if you're an adult who's got a job and has to report for work, and like all the things that kind of play into that. So it's still taking away what it is. Now, overall, though, the combat and the gameplay for this was phenomenal, and I mean that. I enjoyed the combat itself. I mean, and I say phenomenal in relation to what like I've experienced in an MMORPG. I'm sure that there's definitely going to be better combat in God of War, but this isn't going to be God of War combat. But it still feels great. It felt like I was always excited to go and engage and fight something. I love that I'm leveling up all kinds of things, whether it's just within that region, whether it's my weapon, whether it's myself. All of it, like I just feel like I'm making progress in all these things. Skinning the enemies, mining, cutting down trees. The world itself was so immersive, and I felt like maybe, especially after playing Ghost of Tsushima, we could even hopefully get some more options to turn off certain things and have the world communicate things in different ways. Like I really loved how immersive Ghost was, but this I felt was also a world that's immersive, that the UI isn't overpowering, and I didn't feel like I was required for my attention, my focus 100% of the time. But we'll obviously have different opinions, and we'll have to play around with it at that point. I like, again, like I can't hit home enough how I'm excited about player-driven economies, player crafting, how important it is, because even if you're not interested in it, like just running and getting stuff and finding drops and putting up in the market, like all of this keeps us connected, all of this keeps that going. I like the blend of sandbox and theme park, and what I feel like, and I've kind of got the sense from New World for a while, is the sandbox and theme park are two things that need to be joined. And so you have a sand park in a way, where for players from WoW and Final Fantasy XIV, you have a quest line that you can follow that helps introduce you to the world, gets you ingrained into what's going on, introduces you to all the things. And then at the same time, you have the sandbox, which is like, go do what you want. You want to go run up into the zone, you want to go try and undermine this zone, you can go do what you want. And the fact that you have a heavy PvE focus, and we'll talk about the PvP side of it here in a minute, because there's a PvE focus that you can contribute, and you don't have to PvP if you don't want to. I think that opens up the game. One voice crack. I think that opens up the game to a lot of players. I think that gets people in and having fun and not worrying about getting ganked is one side of it. this also brings us to kind of the controversy where they removed that feature. The ability for open world full loot PvP has been taken away, mostly because people like abused it, and they looked at it and they said this isn't really working. I did not yet experience the PvP in this game. I'm very much excited about playing the PvP in this game, but I love that even in a PvE mindset, you're actually PvPing as you fight for control or to undermine enemy zones or other faction zones so that your faction can grow stronger, that you can get perks from that. And the perks in this game are, I found that when the one they presented me, I wanted everything. And the fact that they gave me a choice where I wanted everything and I could only take one, I enjoy that. I was like, oh, man, you're really making me think. And then the fact is that you get other opportunities to get those perks later. And so you're grinding. I'm like, I'm going to just keep grinding. And so I ended up living pretty much in one zone, just focusing in on the one zone, doing the quest, just living there, hanging out with friends. And if you guys, be sure to check out the podcast that we have up. I was talking with Soro and with Death Monkey XL, because it's like they would spawn in and we would do stuff together and we'd have a good time. And then, like each of us kind of had different goals, but we're all a part of the same faction. So in a way, we're all working towards one bigger goal. And there's things that are cut off from the world. Like, there's something here. Like, I don't know if they're going to screw the pooch. Like, the things that we don't know about the game still exist, right? They say there's going to be no pay to win. There's no monthly subscription. So I'm expecting we'll see maybe like a yearly expansion like we see with Destiny and ESO and things like that. I'm expecting that as a part of their subscription yearly expansion drop. We do know there are more alphas are coming, but we don't know about the microtransactions, the glamour, and all the different things that they plan to charge for. And that's obviously going to be a concern for every respectable gamer. It's like, if the game isn't doing well, does it shift into kind of a pay-to-win model? And then ultimately, that's just no fun for anybody. Now, I think this is important for Amazon to get right. I think they want to have a really good game because they're working on their own cloud streaming console service with Amazon, Turbo, or anyway, something Project Turbo or Project something. Anyway, I cannot remember off the life of me, but I know that this is their foray. They didn't do so well with Crucible, and I hope that what we discover here also helps Crucible. The controller support in Crucible felt the same way. Aiming on a controller, not recommended. They haven't got that right, and I hope that they can. And I feel like my goal as a content creator and my goal as a public preview tester and things like that is to get engaged with the forums, give them some direction and feedback. Hell, if they are looking for somebody, I will happily go and work for Amazon and work on their controller support within this game, because I think it's that critical to the overall success of it. And I hope that we get to see some really cool stuff with New World. Now I'm just looking over my notes. We talked about PvE and PvP content, community economy, gameplay, controller support, why I'm excited. We talked about the podcast and the live stream that should be going on maybe while you're watching this. We talked about what I don't know. If you guys have questions, let me know. I really want to help try to make the content to give you the information. Whether this ends up getting you into the game or not, I don't feel like it's my job to get you in or out of a game. It's just to give you the real information as best as I can in an unbiased way, even though I think we're all a little biased no matter what. So you should know, my gaming history. You should know, what I enjoy, because if you enjoy those same things, you might enjoy this. If you don't, if you're looking for more of a single-player narrative-driven experience, this probably not going to be it for you. And there's nothing wrong with that. We don't have to all like the same games. I think that's boring. Anyway, this video has gone long enough. Hopefully it's been interesting, informational. That's the goal of it. And guys, if you want, link in the description. Come check me out. Should be on Twitch playing this. Happy to answer any questions there. Happy to show you any of the systems there. Honestly, this is an incredible and interesting game, and I'm really happy I've been following it this long. I hope that they are able to bring it across the finish line and really make a really great game that a lot of people can really enjoy. Yeah, that's it. Thanks guys for watching. Video footage and gameplay footage and future New World videos for you. So anyway, hopefully you enjoyed. Talk to you soon and take care. This video is sponsored by me, Ginger Prime. Hopefully you'll check out my podcast channel, Ginger Gaming Radio, which we have lots of guests, lots of great conversations, and even more highlights. Links are in the description below. Let me know what you think. Thanks.